So once again, welcome to our fortnightly webinar where we're talking about horsemanship, we're talking about methods, we're talking about training, we're talking about connection. Last week we briefly touched on a couple of our sheets that we have 15-minute workout that we have and a 30-minute workout that we have for the people that we're dealing with. So we touched on those. So this week we're going to look a little deeper into the foundation of natural horsemanship and its application in groundwork. We're going to look at developing a harmonious partnership through effective communication and body language, which is a big part of the communication skill set. Refining your timing, your energy and intention to create clear and meaningful cues, and then progressing from basic exercises to advanced maneuvers on the ground. A lot of the people I'm working with at the moment are on sort of not at the advanced level yet, but we'll be heading that way shortly. The last topic will be enhancing trust, confidence, and willingness in your horse through intentional groundwork. We'll get going. So, like I said last week, we talked about some basic groundwork exercises, how to connect, and obviously in the webinar, I'm not able to physically show you how to do some of the exercises or the methods or the techniques. There's different, obviously different ways of explaining, but in general, there's a lot of different types of methods out there, but what we're looking for is more of a connection with our horses. So the foundation of natural horsemanship and its application for groundwork is basically to establish a working relationship, a working connection with your horse. What I'm seeing recently is quite a lot of people struggling with, for example, putting their bridle on, or putting the bit in the horse's mouth, and often it's not a case of I can't put the bridle on my horse. It's more a case of connection. So establishing that connection with your horse from a foundation level is critical to getting through these sorts of things like bitting your horse and putting the saddle on and getting it to stand still. So building that connection is paramount to me and to the horses that we work with. So we see that happening every day, and it's a pleasure to see. So as I go along, please, if you've got any questions, please just interject, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Anything specific that you want to talk about, happy to do that too. No question there, so we'll move on to our next topic, which is developing a harmonious partnership through effective communication and body language. So I reckon about 95% of our interaction with horses, our communication is done through body language, and often we aren't self-aware enough to understand how we are affecting our horse through our body language. For example, just getting a horse to stand still, a lot of people struggle with that. One of the tools to use to get the horse to stand still is to develop a ground tie, but also develop that connection with the horse and looking at how our body works and how we use our body. So simple things like being able to stand still in any environment, basically to start with by standing still ourselves. So being able to be grounded, and we're talking to a couple of people today about being grounded, but also not reacting, because often when we're working with young horses or inexperienced horses, especially on the ground, they may react to the situation around us. So our responsibility is to respond and not to react and not to put any more energy into that situation. Often I find that people are nervous, especially to start with groundwork, is understanding how to use our body, how to direct our horse, how to use our finger or a backup, for example. So just getting the horse through repetition and connection to understand if we want to send our horse off to the left or the right, or back it up or come forward. All these methods, techniques, if you like, all correlate with the ridden work that we do. So everything that we do on the ground, we transfer to the ridden side, and it all fits together like a puzzle. But the key to all of this is patience, consistency, and knowing what you're doing, and that's the hardest part, is to get started with knowing what to do. Often watching videos can give you an idea what to do, but when you actually get out there and do it, if you haven't done it before, it can be quite difficult to get going. So that's where I come in. If you do need a hand with that, we can sort that out. So we body language. So this is a really in-depth topic, learning how to manage your body language, how to manage your response to horses' actions rather than reacting, to be able to stay calm. For example, if you're sitting on a horse and it bolts or it gets a fright and jumps, often we will do the same thing. We'll react to the situation and escalate that situation. So part of the work that I do is teaching people how to de-escalate that situation, either on the ground. We want to get those practices into place and solidified on the ground before we sit on a horse. So that when we eventually sit on the horse, we have the same response and the same level of connection and relaxation, so that we can deal with situations coming at us. For example, on the outright, if someone's coming your way, how to de-escalate the situation. So body language and how we regulate our body it's a big learning curve for a lot of people. It was for me when I first went in depth into this side of horsemanship, is understanding your body, how your body works, how to use your body correctly and communicate with the horse. We're going to move on to our next subject, which is refining your timing, energy, intention to create clear and meaningful cues. So today we had a session with Joan, and we were looking at the energy side of the relationship and picking up the energy. We were working with a horse that's got quite a low energy. So the difference between a low, I call it a horse with more go than woe, or a horse with more woe than go. So you may have one on either side of that scale. So learning how to regulate your body language for intensity on your cues is a critical part of the communication. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of practice to refine those skills. I've been working with horses for many, many years, and I still learn from every horse that I work with. But the timing and the refining of my skills and my body language, and learning how to read each individual horse that I'm working with doesn't take me very long, but I've had the experience to do that. And often when you're starting out with this horsemanship journey, you struggle to interpret your horse's language. So learning how to interpret the horse's language and your language and putting it all together takes a lot of skill and practice. But it's all doable. It just takes time. Looking at clear and meaningful cues when you're working with your horse. One of the biggest downfalls that I see, it's a hard one to get around, is the timing side of things. So being able to put the correct amount of pressure and being able to release really quickly when you get the right answer to a question. So, for example, if you're sending the horse around you to the left or the right, understanding how to present yourself and to send the horse around is important, and also your energy level and how you transmit that energy through to the horse. So I call it managing the space between you on the ground, and managing that space between you takes a practice and time to get that timing right and the finesse that you're looking for. We've got any questions there? Is anybody on that journey that's got any questions?
Wayne, it's Debbie. I've always had that thing with my Rolo that I pull up there at the end of the day after work, and I'm not feeling very energetic, and he picks up on my body language, I think, and gives me back in the same way. So he can't be bothered because he thinks I can't be bothered.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's an attitude thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To leave it all at the gate, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously after a long day, our energy levels are low. So being able to pick up that energy and to transfer that energy through the space between you through clear communication. It takes a bit of, especially with introverted horse, Debbie?
Yes.
Yeah, he's quite introverted. And Jones on the same sort of page with an introverted horse. It takes a lot of pressure to get the horse going. So a lot of people think that pressure is a problem, but what we're teaching our horses that pressure is part of the solution, it's not the problem. But understanding how to put pressure on and how to release it is quite a long journey, isn't it, Debbie?
Yeah, I mean, do you think they pick up on? I mean, I'm too verbal, really. I should use my body language more. But I mean, do you think they pick up on more than that? Do they? How much do they? Yeah, how much do they notice of your body language? I guess with each other, that's all they have, isn't it? They don't tend to be verbal with each other, do they?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you can teach your horse. I've read a couple of studies on this. You can teach up to 28 different words. There's some incredible studies being done with horses, but you can the verbal cue to repetition can be put into place, and you can use it as many as you want. But the energy level is where it comes in, and that comes from your body language. The horse can see every little detail. One of the horses that I trained over in South Africa, he had that much attention to detail that I could use my finger on my support hand to get a walk, trot, and canter. So just by using my fingers in the right position, he could pick up those cues. So they see the minutest detail. So if you walk into the stable and, for example, you've had a tough day and you're feeling a little bit down, they can pick up your facial expression.
I heard they can pick up whether you're smiling or not. I guess it's more deep, though, isn't it? Well, horses, I suppose, communicate ear twitches, isn't it, and ear movements.
Yep, and mouth, and also the eye, the blinking of the eye. So keeping an eye on all those different non-verbal communication cues that a horse has in place. So learning how to read that language is really important.
Do you advise against Wayne staring a horse in the eye? Is that seen as an aggressive stance?
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't think it's aggressive. If you are being confrontational and you want to back your horse up or move them away from you, you want to look at the horse. So looking at the horse, I think in traditional lunging they sort of look frowned upon getting your horse to face you, because I believe it promotes. I think they believe it promotes aggressive behaviour. But that's just simply not true. I mean, the problem with traditional lunging is that often you're tracing the horse around. So if you're putting fear into the horse and then you turn around and ask it to look at you, and it's in fear mode, there's a good chance it could take off, because you might have spent the last 5 minutes chasing it around with a whip. So like you know, I'm not a great fan of lunging. I use lunging for connection, if anything else, in communication. Because I want to be able to send my horse around me, be able to stand still and send my horse around me on a 14-foot line or 22-foot line, with a little effort at all. So I can basically stand still, pick up my hands, point, and give the cue for a walk, a trot, and a canter while I stand absolutely dead still. I know we've been struggling with that one a little bit, haven't we, Debbie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So often you got to move your feet to get the horse to move its feet. So there's two sides to it. If you do liberty, obviously you want the horse to connect with your feet and your energy and move with you. But then you also want to be able to send the horse with more finesse around you at a walk, a trot, and a canter, without having to, in essence, for the horse to take responsibility for those gaits. So if you're constantly chasing the horse around with a whip or something, constantly nagging it to go forward, it can have a reverse effect on the horse. It's like when you're riding. Often you're riding schools where you see the kids kicking the horse and someone telling kick the horse in the ribs. I don't want to be out. I don't want to be doing that with my horse. I want to feel the energy through my seat and pick my seat up and get the forward motion without having to put my legs on. So you've got to be careful. Some horses, like I think your horse Debbie was at a riding school, wasn't she?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes they can be oversensitized. So yeah, and shut
I'm
down.
going to say, what's the incentive for a horse to actually take notice of you when you're giving it these subtle signals? Is it because obviously it's not out of fear, but is it because it thinks you're in the herd, more in control, you're higher in the hierarchy or something? Why would a horse do that? If it wasn't out of fear.
Yeah. No. Well, every horse is looking for connection. So in a herd environment, they all rely on each other for comfort, for security, for each other to look out for each other. So they're always looking out for that herd environment where they can feel secure. And that's where we come in, because in our normal environment, day-to-day environment, the horses don't get to run in herds. So often it causes anxiety in the horse if they're out on their own. But what they're basically looking for, Debbie, is for connection and for relaxation, and a safe place to be. And often when you start with your groundwork program, you'll find the horse won't be connected with you. I see lots of people riding around the schools here and there, riding around the horse around the school, and the horse is paying no attention to the rider. They're going around the arena with their head out, looking around, looking for connection. And this is where the groundwork program comes in, because we build that connection on the ground, and then we transfer that to the ridden side. So, in essence, the answer to your question is they are looking for, I call it passive leadership. And you can call it what you like, but they're looking for something or someone to connect with. If they can't connect with you, if you haven't got the right understanding on how to connect with horses, they're not going to connect with you. Because often we're thinking, you're being stupid or silly, you reacted to this, you've just been silly, all this sort of thing. There's always a reason for it, and the biggest thing is connection. So if they're not connected with you, it's often not the problem. The problem is not the problem. The problem is connection. Mm-hmm. So you can deal with a lot of that once we have the connection. And they're all looking for that. They're all looking for it.
Thank you.
No worries. Does that answer your question?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Right. So in terms of body language, for example, I've done this with quite a few of you, is just being able to use your finger for notion to go backwards, for example, just wiggling your finger. So your hands are a vital part of the communication and the finesse of the communication. Obviously, when you sit on the horse and you're riding, excuse me, your hands are connected to the rein, which is connected to the brain rather than the mouth. I don't use a lot of bits anymore because I just find that with training, I don't really need to use a bit. And some of you are going bitless now and understanding the principles. And I had a couple of light bulb moments this week with people that have been working on their groundwork. And don't be misled. Sometimes it takes time and effort, and it's all about repetition. But I had a few light bulb moments this week with people realizing the connection between groundwork and ridden work in terms of connection, firstly, and then in terms of methods. So a couple of light bulb moments which people go, I get it. I see why we do this on the ground. I see why we do that while we do a hindquarter reflection with a hindquarter. That's the sort of finesse we're looking for. And like I said earlier, Debbie, some horses have got more go than woe, and then more woe than go, or go than woe. So that energy can be challenging at times to pick that energy up, but the connection and the focus is paramount.
I think, Wayne, I mentioned when we had this session today that in the arena, generally speaking, Angel's woe is far bigger than her go.
Yes.
Change the environment and it can go completely the opposite way.
Oh, I feel that comment very much so, yes.
Yeah. My nephew, my theory is involved with opposite.
Yes.
then I did come off her 10 years ago, landed on my head, didn't actually knock me sentence me sadly, but that's my sort of fear. So the minute I start pushing myself, not the minute, I'm better now, but a couple of years ago I would not go out into that big outdoor field with the steam weight. I would freeze and can't do it. And then my energy was obviously affecting her because she was like, well, you're frightened and actually you're not healthy, so we wouldn't really get very far. And I've seen her go around with other people who have the confidence, and it's fun, but I've done bit by bit, and I still find it a bit challenging if she starts to feel me like a little bit of a soil underneath me, and that's now what I need to learn to manage and use reflection to bring her back, and then start going on. But Ainsley's generally more woe than go, but it can go the other way.
Especially with the introvert. So the key is there's always an escalation of want to call it anxiety or stuff happening around. And so it often escalates and keeps adding up, and then there's the reaction. So the key is to identify when that's happening. So understanding the horse's body language, and it's not too difficult to read the horse's escalate, because the head generally gets higher and higher. Eyes stop blinking. The ears come up, and I was working with a horse today we went towards some pigs, and you can, he's not used to pigs, so his body language was just went through the energy just went through the roof. But we stopped. We found a safe place to stop. We did some flexing, and also the flexing. What I sometimes do is a flex and then change hands and just a rub on the forehead and just get the horse to connect back with you. And it took a little while, but eventually he just dropped his head down, and we've been practicing on the ground. We've done the learning stage with some of the methods, but lots of practicing. And he's a lovely gelding. He had serious problems, but he just he dropped his energy down. He came down. The key was that I didn't react when he reacted. I responded with calmness. And often when we get into that situation where it's escalated, we tend to get onto the reins and start to get tighter on the reins, and that just escalates everything up. So when I'm riding on the buckle. I'm ready to do my flex, so I can disengage the hindquarters. So if things go wrong, that's basically my handbrake, so I can just flex, bend the horse around, and disengage the hindquarters. And that's that process we go through on the ground. So we get that all in place on the ground. Often there's a time period of to adapt from the groundwork to the ridden work, but it doesn't take long because we've already been practicing it. And I see this all the time with horses escalating, and so finding somewhere to stop, to relax, to release, and to do your flexing, often that will bring the horse down. So, but the key is to identify as it's escalating. So don't let it get to a point where it's going to explode. You want to tackle it at the first rabbit that runs out, or the first motorbike that comes through. So you don't want to keep escalating that. You want to stop and bring it back down to zero, and then if we go, okay, and you can tell, it's easy to tell when the horse is feeling relaxed and confident, because if he's not, he's probably going to move his feet, he's going to get stressed, especially if you ask him to bend and flex, he might move his feet, but I'll just hang on to the flex until he stops and then release. And often, I'll just say to the horse, okay, are we going to stand or are we going to move? And then if he moves, I'll pick up and bend and flex and just get him to de-escalate. And so, the problem is that I have people say that when he gets wound up, I can't get the deflection. This is the key is to attack, to get into that before it gets to that point where you haven't got control anymore. So identifying the escalation at its core and base and dealing with it then, and then bring it back down again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think it's always a similar thing as me managing my emotions, recognising if I'm like I'm stressed or I'm getting bit, my adrenaline's going up, and then maybe using the flexion then to actually put me in a calmer place as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it puts you in control of direction too, because, if a horse does take off on you, often what we do is we'll pull up on two reins and start pulling on the mouth and trying to get them to slow down. And often if you're at that stage, you're heading for disaster. It's too late. So, even if you think, you yourself think that the horse is a little worried, and even if you're a little worried, just stop, find a place if you can, safe place to stop, relax, and see if the horse will stand still and drop the pole below the wither. I'm a great advocate of working on that, getting the pole below the wither with everything I do, with flexion, with left and right bends, hindquarter yields, with my groundwork, walk, trot, and canter. I'm always looking for the horse to be doing all these things with a low head carriage. So the pole anywhere below the wither is, and some of you know this, we can spend hours working on this just to get the horse to relax. And often if they've been lunged, it takes a long time to bring them into a place where they feel relaxed to just move around you and take responsibility for the walk, the trot, and the canter, for example. So, but I get what you're saying, Joan. With an interval, the horse, it's under the surface there, and it can come up really quickly. So she could be really relaxed and then come up real quick.
Yeah, it can, and it's sort of, I'm not really can't really be ready for it, but I suppose it's just being aware in the back of my mind that could happen, but being ready to use reflection sooner rather than later to get her brain back on me.
Yeah. And what often happens is when you go into fear or into fear mode as a human, you stop thinking. It's pretty much like a horse. You can go through the same process. You stop thinking and you start panicking. And the first thing that you'll probably do is go back to what you know. And if you've done it so many times, if you've been taught how to ride quite tight and pull on, if things go bad, just pull on both reins. If you've been doing that for the last 10 or 20 years, it's really hard to get into the idea of using flexion to de-escalate the situation. I know some people really struggle with it. It's almost got to be subconscious. For me now, if I'm watching the horse, if it's escalating, but if it's a one-time explosion, I'm ready for it, and I'm ready to pick up my rein, and I can show you those techniques and how I use my reins in my hands just to get that flexion. But obviously, it comes from the groundwork, getting that groundwork solidified. So once again, just going back to that, pressure is part of the solution, not part of not the problem. And some people are using pressure, which creates problems. We want to use pressure to create a solution to what we're doing. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
No, pleasure.
Well, he's still on field rest at the moment. I've got to have him re-scanned. To be honest, he's perfectly sound because he had these injections into his stifle for the arthritis. But when they ultrasounded, they found he had damage to the joint, like tears. But he seems perfectly fine. So I just need to. I think I need to. I've got this stuff that you sent me for a series of sort of a program of groundwork exercises, which is very helpful. But I guess I just need to make sure I pick the ones that aren't putting a lot of strain on his stifle joints. So the ones in straight line. Yeah. I've been just leaving him to it, to be honest, until I know he's okay. And I need to now, he'll go a bit feral if I'm not careful and forget everything he's learned and start pushing me around a bit. So I need to, probably not a lot of circle work at the moment until I know he's completely okay. But there's no reason I can't do the walking the straight line stuff, bending, flexing, things like that. So he's had like 6 weeks now where I've just left him really, led him up and down to the stable once a day, just in the groom and let him do his thing. But I think I really now need to start getting back that connection a bit more. I'm seeing him every day, but I think I need to engage his mind a bit as well. He likes to be quite playful.
Yeah.
I wonder. Eventually I'd like to. He has a treat ball, and I throw that around the field, and he prances around. I don't really want him prancing too much, but eventually I'd like to get one of those maybe those big balls that you have, big yoke ball type things. I think he'd be good at that. He's quite playful.
Yeah. Interacting, getting some interaction with his brain interacting a little more.
Yeah, I think he's starting to get bored now, not doing anything, and I need to do that, because realistically, I'm not going to, if I go by the vet's advice, which I probably should do, I'm not going to be riding till end of August or something like that, and then I'm going to have to bring him back, and so there's no reason I don't think I can do, I certainly can do groundwork in straight lines, if not circles.
Yeah. And make sure you're doing your flexion exercises and your hindquarter yields, and that, I say to people, I like to prepare my horse, obviously with training on the ground, but also fitness on the ground. So before I sit on them, I know that they're physically fit, and obviously I'm in a fit position to work with that horse, because it's not fair on the horse if the horse is fit and we're not. I don't like to get a horse fit initially. The base fitness, I like to do that on the ground. So a lot of that, and core fitness too. It's the same as us. If our core's strong, we can.
Yeah, like my Pilates, I go to, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Engaging the core. So, what's the best? You might be going into that anyway. What are the best sort of exercises for that engaging the core, lifting, and
You're talking about for horse or human?
The horse. Horse.
Horse. Okay. So the flexion side of it helps with top line muscles. So just being able to flex left and right, but like we've probably gone over a few times, is being able to flex left and right with the pole below the wither. So through a soft feel and connection, I get my horse to flex left and right on the ground with the pole below the wither. So what that does, and I've worked with so many people, and the physios are very impressed with the results that we've been getting with the exercises that I use. I worked with someone this week who the physio couldn't believe the change in the core strength and fitness. This particular horse has got a weak hind on the left hand side. He's an older horse, also been in a riding school. Was very shut down when I met him, but physically he's a lot better now through the groundwork exercise that I use, the flexion with the hindquarter yield, with lateral flexion, with shoulder flexion. So you've got the exercises on your sheet there. So if you work through those, and I do it with repetition. One thing that I wanted to just go back on quickly was the circle work, because horses aren't really designed to go in circles as such. So it's the kind of thing that with the circle and the getting the horse to take responsibility for the walk, trot, and the canter, for example, is I've lost my train of thought now. Sorry.
You said about circles. You said it's about
horses are not designed to do circles. They're more designed to run straight lines. They're all curves. They're not designed to do tight circles or whatever. But in the world that we live in, we use them for all sorts of things where we do very tight circles. But the key is, once you've done the learning and then you practice it, it's just to touch base with the methods that we put in place. Just to touch base with that. You don't have to overdo the circle work, but the important thing is that they can do it, and that you have connection, and you can transition through your walk, trot, and canter without having to be too physical with the horse. So the horse taking responsibility for that. But if you use that program, that groundwork program, it will definitely help him. And just keep his top line with flexion. Keep that top line. There's 3 exercises there, and then through the sacroiliac and the core muscles, is that flexion, hindquarter flexion, getting that inside hindquarter leg to bend in. That pulls through the sacroiliac to the core muscle, and if you do it regularly, I can promise you that it will change. I've seen time and time again, it does make a huge difference.
I guess, as you say, if you've got the connection and you're on the line that's 22 feet, what do you say? The line. By definition, they are going round you in a circle, aren't they? probably more of a circle than naturally they do.
Yeah,
but then you're trying to get that connection with them, aren't you? So you need them to.
That's the core of it. I'm not necessarily wanting my horse to go around in circles forever.
But you can walk around a larger area, can't you? So they're alongside you. Do it that way, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And we touched on some of the Liberty work too last time I saw you. So he was coming along a little bit with there. So just being able to do some Liberty, and I like to take my horses into the depending on the circumstance, but allow them to go into the arena, for example, and let them go, let them have a run around. And if they're in pain, I believe that if they're in pain, they're not going to go around hooning around, bucking and carrying on, are they?
I agree. I think you listen to them, don't you? Listen to their body language.
Yeah. And often the vets, not a criticism of vets, but I think a lot of times you've got to be really careful with vets' opinions on things, because I think that sometimes they over-exaggerate things a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I'd never had his joints ultrasounded, to be honest, because he had the injections in the stifle for the arthritis, which was clearly there with the X-ray.
Mm-hmm.
But and he's absolutely sound since he had those. And I was thinking, oh God, if I hadn't had the ultrasound on the joint, I probably would have just gone him back into work by now, So it's a bit of a balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah, often I see people going through this long list of things that they've got to sort out. I was talking to a lady the other day who's got a long list of things that she's been working through. And I worked with a horse, and she's eliminated all pain, which is really important when you're working with horses. There is pain. But she's gone through this whole long, lengthy process and found nothing wrong. And it's more behavioural and training the person, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we talked about that before, didn't we? I think it's probably at least 50-50, if not more, you're training the human.
Exactly. And on an emotional state for a relationship, I often say, I've read quite a few books, and I saw something the other day about someone talking about a 50-50 in a relationship, which never exists. There's no such thing as 50-50 in a relationship, because one person may be having a bad day, and if the relationship's going to work, the other person's got to, for example, if Janine's feeling 20% down, for example, getting into figures, I need to step up and help with that 20%. Yeah. Does it make sense? So,
yes, definitely. Yeah, it's flexible.
It's the same with the horse. If the horse is in a different place, our responsibility to add to that to bring them up again. Does it make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So also, just being aware of your horse's demeanour when you come into the stable too, just picking up on their energy, how they're feeling. Often I'll do a touch around the horse, make sure I always use my hands to touch everywhere around my horse, so I can pick up any lumps, bumps, or scratches and that sort of thing. Also, it's a connection part of the process. So I don't just come in, brush, put the saddle on and go. There's a lot of connection and looking and understanding where the horse is at, because they may be having a physical issue, or sometimes they've had an emotional time. Something may have happened through the night. Something may upset them. A dog may run through the paddock. Things like this, I'm always looking for those things if they come up. What's going on here? I had a lady the other day who went on 2 weeks leave and left the horse with the people that she keeps it with. And when she got back, and I saw the same thing when I went to work with her, the horse was head shy. And he's never been head shy, but now all of a sudden he's head shy. So just looking in depth into the reaction that your horses are having, it's critical to the relationship. It's like a human relationship. If we're not emotionally aware of each other, we become unhappy. So the last subject I want to just go over is enhancing trust, confidence, and willingness for your horse to intentional groundwork. So groundwork it can be very complex. It depends where you want to take it. If you want to take it into Liberty, but enhancing those skills the only way that you can really do that is to do the basic fundamentals right. So if you haven't got those right, it's really hard to progress into more finesse with the groundwork. So it's very important that you master the basics before we move on to the more technical stuff, so to speak. But those basics will always get you out of trouble if you're progressing through a training program and you hit a wall. I always go back to where I started. So even if the horse knows the stuff, has learned the stuff, I'll just step back to the basics. So then the trust side of it is what's important. So in that process, we're developing trust, and then communication and connection. So once you start to connect those neurons in the brain through learning, you'll find that the learning platform just gets stronger and stronger. It's like a child, when the horse is born fully functional, the horse's brain fully functions, its eyesight fully functions, its ears, its smell, can hear fully, 100%. When they're born, they have all those faculties in place. It's the same as when they die. So they're born with it right in place. A human, for example, takes, the eyes have to open first and takes years and years of learning to progress. But a horse can start learning the moment it's born, starts learning it and figure things out. Quite different to a human. So they're already way ahead of us.
So you've been talking about just there about basics and getting into a situation where a small amount of body language will get the response that you're looking for. Also, you can get the horse to walk off the counter without moving the feet and that sort of thing and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you've met Lady a few times. She will vary hugely. So there are times when, I can ask her to walk, I can ask her to trot, she'll go around me very nicely, I can ask her to go back again with the very slightest of things. And then she'll get distracted. And then nothing on earth will work. So how do you escalate your intention to match the horse's distraction? You see what I mean? What do you do? Do you focus on trying to bring the horse back and relaxing and getting the head down and flexing? Or do you up your energy levels, match so that you do get the response that you're looking for? How do you go about that?
So we're talking about focus. You said we're talking about focus. Yeah, it's a progressive thing, I think. I don't tend to push the horse too much to get the focus. What I focus on more is bringing the horse back to relaxation and connection, and getting that focus back again, back on me through relaxation. So the focus side of it, sometimes I think we did this last time, that we used the flag a bit to get that focus back in. Using the flag can be very helpful for getting that focus in. And you'll notice that focus will be there for a while, then it will drop out and be for a while. Over time, that focus is the same thing. It's just developing the focus. So often I'll use my training aid. I may use a carrot stick, or I may use my flag, but just to get that focus. The other thing I can do is just use my draw. So getting the horse to draw towards me, coming towards me. So if I send him out, for example, on the circle, and I haven't got much focus, and I think we covered this one, Nick, but every now and again I'll just walk away from the horse. So she'll be going around in a circle, and I'll just walk away, and I'll soon see if she's focused or not. But hopefully I'll bring my intention and focus back into the equation just through walking away. So she's been going around me, she's been looking out the circle, and if I just walk away and then draw that intention and that focus back to me. So that's one thing that you can do for that. Using the flag, I find the flag really helpful.
I tried that myself last time I was working with her. as we were discussing, you have to be very careful because it's very reactive. You need to get their attention without getting any element of fear or any element of shock or surprise or whatever.
Absolutely.
So it's a question of sort of playing with a nice mouse, having it run along around and
Exactly.
what's that?
Exactly.
In that respect, it's great at drawing attention. It sort of sparks their curiosity and becomes more interesting than whatever else you're looking at.
Exactly. And the skill there is, like you say, is how you use it, and that's why I use a retractable flag. Because I'll often use it just to get focus back, and then I'll just collapse it and put it in my back pocket, and then pull it out again when I need it.
I have one just pretty well the same as yours. It's a telescopic thing with a homemade flag on the end.
Yep. So yeah, then just being able to put that away, and test and just do a little test and see if the focus is still there. But yeah, the skill is, and you've also seen this with other horsemen, probably, Nick, is how you use it and when you release the pressure. And that's the skill. It takes a skill. Often when people first start doing it, they're overzealous with the flag. Often it just takes the presence of it is enough. So you've got to be real careful. You don't start flapping it around and.
Absolutely. We were talking last time. About using like a schooling whip or a carrot stick and rope or the flag. You're sort of going up in volume.
Yes.
You're getting a louder and louder tool, and therefore you have to use it more and more quietly.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, a loud tool used quietly can be better than a quiet tool, which you then have to use so vigorously that you're sort of shouting rather than communicating.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that's the thing is we touched briefly on nagging the horse, and on the ground you can do that too. You can start to nag them and overstimulate them. And then they might start to shut down, and just there's no response to that stimulus. Yeah. So, and you've got an extrovert horse. And a very smart girl too.
Oh, and when you've got her attention, which is absolutely magnificent, as you see.
Yeah.
It's just trying to be more interesting than the outside work without in any sense being frightened.
Exactly. And that's I guess in essence that's it's passive leadership in essence, I guess. Is not having to make a big noise, but everybody wants to follow you.
Yeah. Well, if I master that, it would be useful in the rest of life.
Exactly. Great. Thanks for your question, Nick. Okay, so just a little thing we can touch on. We've got a couple of minutes left. Is attitude. So attitude of your horse and your own personal attitude. For me, attitude is everything. So great, guys. So if there's no more questions, we could probably end this one. Any comments or feedback is greatly appreciated. I hope the information was of value to you all.
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Wayne. I guess if we knew a little, a few bullet points about what you were going to cover, then you might get some more questions that people have a little bit of time to think about. Might help, maybe.
Is that not on the? I think that's on the webinar.
Oh, well, that's my fault. That's my fault. Because on this occasion, as I say, I'm borrowing.
Yeah. So, at the bottom is the description of what we're going to be talking about.
Brilliant. Okay.
So next time, write your questions down. So thank you guys for joining. If there's no more questions, we'll end it there. But any feedback on what we've discussed is welcome. So you can message me directly, or I think you can message through the page. So anything you want to talk about, or you want to contact me, please feel free to contact me. I'm at the Kent show this weekend.
I was just about to ask about it. Hiya, it's Rachel. About the Kent show.
Hi, Rachel.
Hiya.
is it kind of the same things you're doing on each of the days, or is it going to be kind of different?
Well, there's 3 different horses, so there'll be three different situations
Yeah.
to deal with. And a couple of horses I've worked with a couple of times. On Friday, I'm working with a horse that I haven't worked with before, who hasn't done any sort of groundwork or any horsemanship. So they'll all be different. That I can promise you. There's three different types of horses, and a couple of extroverts and an introvert. So the reaction to the crowd will be a big thing. So
Yeah, very much so.
yeah, for a couple of young horses and one that's inexperienced, it's never been in big crowds, so it's going to be really interesting to see if we get them to it. I'll be looking a lot at relaxation and connection through the Friday. On the Saturday, I've got a horse that we've worked with quite a lot, so if she can settle in the big crowd, I'll do some demonstrations on the things that we talked about, how the hindquarter flex, doing the flexion, setting the horse around, walk, start, and canter. So we'll be covering all those points. I don't know if we'll do any riding as such, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, no, that'd be good. So obviously, yeah, we're on the 3rd day with obviously Doug now, and it's like people are like, oh, don't know what you're doing. What are you asking of me? So it's yeah.
Okay, so you're coming over. You're coming over to the 10 show.
Yeah, on the Saturday, I think we're coming over.
Oh, brilliant, Rachel.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah.
We've got a stand there too, so we've got products and training equipment, and you come and chat to us, and look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, great.
Right. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining in.